I just escaped from the Genesis simulation and I now have 100 days to be Alpha Rockwell Prime. Day 1 in the real world and I spawned in with a sick looking tech suit. And I also had all my gear from my previous 100 days in the Genesis simulation, so I quickly dropped all that on the ground because apparently cheating is bad or something. Anyway, I've never played Genesis 2 before, so this will be a new experience for me. But what isn't a new experience for me are missions. And since I play on single player, all the hunting missions are already completed since you can't beat them on single player. It's kind of nice to see the art devs looking out for the players once in a while. Anyway, I'm on a tight schedule and I cannot afford to waste time. So after exploring Eden for a little while, I crafted myself a stone pickaxe and hatchet, even though they're pretty much useless since tech punching resources is way more efficient. And speaking of tech punching, I brutally beat a mod shops to death for a whopping 120 high. And after that, I was still exploring the map because it looked awesome. And there was a white drop and I wanted loot. And it had some pretty questionable loot, but drops are overpowered on Gen 2. So if this is the worst tier of loot, I'm really excited what I get later on. Anyways, after that, I looted a few more drops, including ones in Rockwell's garden. And that's pretty much what I did for the entirety of day 1. Also, about half of these drops land inside the map and you can't access them. Anyway, enough with my complaining because it's a new day and I was watching this sick animation of Genesis ship flying to a different star system. And after that, I was exploring the Eden side of the map looking for potential base spots my stream chat was suggesting for me. And after only a few minutes of looking, I found a small pond and I said screw it, I'm gonna build a lake house. And I then proceeded to place 2 thatch foundations, 6 refining forges, and 4 wooden storage boxes. And I then punched a few metal rocks and just like that, I had over 1,000 raw metal smelting in my forges. And I also had a campfire cooking me food even though I got 90 cooked mutton less than 20 minutes ago. And now this is where my stream chat decided they didn't want me playing Ark the normal way, where you slowly build up and grind, taming dinos as you need them over time. And I was somehow convinced to try and get impregnated by a Reaper on day 2. It sounds horrible, and believe me, it was. There's a location in Rockwell's garden called Rockwell's innards, which are literally his guts and heart. And the best I can describe it as, it's hell. And with it being hell, Reapers, Seekers, Tentacles, and Summoners all spawn in here. But luckily, Hydras don't spawn in here. They spawn in Raid Shadow Legends. The Hydras in Raid have 6 heads, each being its own separate boss fight. So depending on how good you are, that's either 6 ways to die or 6 ways to come out victorious. And since I'm also the best Raid player of all time, you already know I'm coming home with 6 dubs. Anyway, as I said earlier, the Hydra has 6 heads, being the height of Blight, Torment, Mischief, Wrath, Decay, and Suffering. So yeah, it's not the most friendly of bosses. So here's a little summary of them so you won't get destroyed. The head of Blight will poison you and defend itself with a poison cloud, but killing it with fire is extra effective. You need Veil buffs to kill the head of Torment, but the head of Mischief will steal your buffs and use them against you, so good luck with those two. The head of Wrath is pure rage, so make sure to kill it before it kills you. And finally, the head of Decay and Suffering are the most challenging, so make sure to take these dudes down as soon as possible. And now, since you know a little bit about the Hydra, I recommend Orcs to kill it, especially Gallic. He's my favorite because, come on, look how cool he looks. Also, another champion that could help you out a ton is the new free legendary champion Sun Wukong. All you have to do is log in on 7 different days between August 22nd and October 23rd. That's it. That's literally it. It's the deal of a lifetime, so you're crazy if you don't take it. So what are you waiting for? Download Raid using my link in the description, get an epic champion Stag Knight by just using the Probe JT skin before October 7th, and get a free starter pack with in-game loot as well. Just hit my link in the description and I'll see you on the battlefield. And the way to successfully get a Reaper with no gear has about a 75% failure rate. You have to find a Reaper Queen while avoiding Summoners, Tentacles, and Seekers, then lead it into an acid pit below the boss terminal, get it to below 2k health, get it out before it dies, then dodge attacks long enough for it to impregnate you and avoid literally everything else getting out. But since I'm the best Ark player ever, this should be no problem at all. Yeah, I got ratioed by that Reaper, but it's a level 120, so you already know I'm going back for it. But this time, I'm coming back with some wooden shields and beds in case that happens again. And don't worry that I died, you keep the baby even when you die. So I found myself an Explorer note, punched a few trikes to death, and had my 75 levels just like that. I started day 4 building a stone 2x1 and giving birth to a precious baby boy who promptly killed me 10 seconds after birth. But it's great because I don't even have to pay child support because the mother is dead. That sounded horrible. Anyway, once the Reaper finally turned into a juvenile and didn't want to tear my face off anymore, I named him Discord Kitten in honor of natural causes, who basically carried me through the whole process of getting a Reaper. Moving on, I imprinted the Reaper and I was collecting some drops while I was waiting for it to mature, and I got 5 element and an Astro Dolphin saddle, which basically means I can tame a Space Dolphin now. And I also got a Tech Hover Sail, but I was bad at controlling it and didn't like it that much. Anyway, my Reaper was now fully grown and nothing living was safe. I finished massacring innocents on day 5 and decided it was time to get a Space Dolphin. And to tame a Space Dolphin, you first have to pet it a few times, then chase it and feed it an element, then repeat. It's not too hard, except once in a while they give you a little peck and it sends you flying. Anyway, 10 minutes later I tamed myself a level 168 female Astrodelphus, and it was insanely fun to fly around on. And it's also fun to kill things on, which is what I do best. But anyways, another thing special about these guys is that they can go underwater, hence the space dolphin, I think. I don't know, I just completely pulled that out of my ass. Anyway, I went up to see the new space biome on day 6. And if you didn't know, they change every night at midnight, and the cycle was metal and element dust this time around, so not that great. Anyway, moving on to my main goal for day 6, mutagel. Mutagel was used to tame striders, which are overpowered at farming basically any resource, so I went back into Rockwell's innards with my Reaper to try and get some. But the problem was, I didn't know what it looked like, and my Reaper was only at around 5k HP, and I for some reason thought this was a good idea, going into hell without healing. And I also for some reason thought it was a good idea to confront a summoner, and it freaked me out, so I just left. Just kidding, that would have been too smart. Instead, I threw out my space dolphin, but I realized you couldn't ride it in here, so I panicked and threw out my creeper with cryo sickness. Now this was bad, but I was at a place where I thought nothing could happen, and by this time I was about 3 hours into my stream, so I really had to pee IRL, and I think you can see where this is going. While I was power washing the toilet bowl, a rogue Reaper King killed my Reaper, then nearly killed me. And once I finally got back, I threw out my space dolphin again, which I can't ride, remember, so I cryoed it again, then left and threw it back outside of the cave with cryo sickness. Yeah, I ended the stream after that one. Day 7, and let's hope today is not nearly as eventful as day 6. Beluga, my space dolphin, woke up about a third of the way into the day, and then I started crafting up some taming gear, which was necessary to tame 2 Maywings. And while I was waiting for the raw meat to spoil, I looted some red drops, but didn't get anything too crazy. But by the end of the day, I had everything I needed to tame the 2 Maywings. Day 8, and holy cow, that's an indie forge and a drop. Now, that was a really good start to the day, but even better, element was the resource and cycle now. Now, I don't have a tech strider to take advantage of all this element, and I'm sure it would be pretty bad if I harvested it with a pickaxe. So what am I to do? Punch it. So yeah, I farmed over 1,000 element by hand. Sure, it took the whole day of me mindlessly punching rocks, but this will be super useful from now on. Anyways, after that, I checked the space biome again, and it was metal and gems. And I'm still on the hunt for mutagel, which can only be found in the space biome or in Rockwell's innards, which I obviously did not get last time. And since I'm not that smart, before I knew, I was back in the depths of hell with only me and my tech suit. And surprisingly, I got the mutagel and got in and out without dying. Sure, I took a few hits, but it went way better than last time. And I can now tame a strider. But how do I actually tame strider? I found a level 18 that I tried to tame multiple times, but I couldn't seem to figure out the hacking mechanic. I just kept getting shocked over and over again until I rage quit. But when I logged back in the next day IRL, my stream chat helped me tame a level 54. Turns out you have to left click when those green boxes go over the middle line, and just like that, it's all yours. It's actually pretty easy once you figure it out. Day 10 and this thing is actually insane at farming, except I think I'm gonna crash every time I harvest something. I thought we nearly just crashed. And also, I named my strider Harvester of Sorrow. Let me know in the comments if you know where that name comes from. So as I was walking my strider back to my base, I spotted level 174 and 156 Maywings. So you know what's about to happen next. Oh, and I also bought some loot crates while I was waiting for them to tame, but the only good thing I got from them was this rhino chibi. Moving on, I now actually want to begin working on my base, but if I want to build any structures, I'm gonna need a wood harvester since the striders like to farm thatch over wood. So yeah, I gotta farm up some more taming stuff. Just kidding, my stream chat reminded me that I had gotten shocking trank darts from a drop, and I can now knock out basically anything with this good log neck I also got from a drop. And I actually found a max level beaver, so yeah.
You're coming home with me.
But beavers wake up really fast for some reason, so the narcotics I was farming didn't go to waste. And while I was waiting for the beaver to tame, I also spotted an otter, which I promptly tamed and named Kipper. And if you ever seen one of my videos before, you know that when I tame an otter named Kipper, it always dies. But I'm determined to keep this one alive. Anyways, right after that, I was still waiting for my beaver to tame, so I did some exploring and found an even better lake than my current one with waterfalls, so I'm moving there. And once my beaver finally tamed, I took it back to my base in Cryopod, uploaded my strider in a terminal so I can download it closer to the bigger lake. I wanted to build a base before I move there so I don't have to build another temporary base to build the big base. Day 12, I crafted both my Maywing saddles, even though I'd almost never used them because I enjoy flying on my space dolphin too much. And after that, I got my strider to my new base location and had to relog because Arc is bad and didn't load anything in. Anyway, it's now time to build the best base you've ever seen. Day 16, and with my new base being pretty much complete, I returned to my temporary base and grabbed all my valuables and transferred them to the new one. And after that, I placed my indie forge front and center where I think it looked best. And I then placed some more structures like a smithy and grill, but had to return to my temporary base at the end of the day to smelt up some more gas. Anyway, day 17, I have my gas, so my forge can now smelt some more metal, and I also have 2 metal shields. You can probably see where I'm going with this. I was already missing having a stronger dino that can kill basically anything, so I want to get another reaper, and this time it should be easier, hopefully. I had better shields, I have beds and sleeping bags in case I die, I know what I'm doing now, and most importantly, I have Kipper. Just kidding, I forgot I had him on him, so I put him in a safe spot in the cave in case I die, because if I do die, so does Kipper. Anyway, after not too long of looking around and only getting jump scared by a summoner once, I found myself a level 156R Reaper Queen. It took like 15 minutes of her burning an asset and me dying a few times, but in the morning of day 18, she finally impregnated me and dug into the ground, never to be seen again. And after that, I killed a Capro and Spino on my way back to base, which got me all the levels my baby Reaper needed. And I then made a stone structure and gave birth once again, and the baby actually looked super cool. It had cyan colored skin and orange fins. It looked like it was either out of the movie Avatar: The Way of the Water or Vaporeon the Pokemon, so I named it Vaporeon. And I had to stay around my base for a little bit to get full imprint on the Reaper, but after that I was back in Rockwell's gardens in his innards. Turns out I actually forgot Kipper in there, who was still on the little platform I left him on, but he was alive and well. I told you guys, I'm determined to keep this little dude alive. Day 19 and my Reaper is now fully grown, but just like last time, he's only a few hits from dying. And since I'm a good parent and learn from my mistakes, I'm gonna tame a snow owl to heal him up before I use him so he doesn't die like my last Reaper. And it didn't take too long of me looking to find a level 174, and I even built a trap, but I realized I still have these shocking trank darts, so I can knock it out in like 6 shots. And later when I tamed it, I named her Vladimir Hooten, as it's a name suggestion from my chat, and I think it's probably one of the best dino names of all time. Anyway, I returned to my base and tried healing my Reaper with the owl, but the owl can only heal like 5 seconds before being out of stamina. So I spent the rest of the day killing Rexes for experience so that gets more stamina into it. My owl could finally do some real healing on day 20, so I took about 5 minutes to get my Reaper up to a decent health amount. I then went on a little killing rampage around the northern mountains and eating to get some decent levels on, and after getting said levels on it, I was feeling pretty balls. So I then tried the Gamma life support mission, but I had no idea what I was doing and I had to cancel the mission because I was getting boxed. I made some campfires to cook me some more food on day 21, but I remembered I had an industrial grill literally 5 seconds later. And after that, I opened a purple drop and got an ascended minigun. I'm like the thumbnail. Anyways, I was really out in these mountains to farm metal. I was still farming metal by hand because I don't have a good way to get my strider around the map right now. And if I want to keep advancing, I need metal for literally everything. I was done farming metal on day 22 and decided to farm some drops. And it was all going fine until there was one yellow drop in Rockwell's garden that just so happened to have a carnivorous plant next to it. Yeah, after that, I got a few more drops, but they all really had a load of hot garbage in them. But then I remembered something. Before I started recording this 100 days, I watched a video where if you do the circuit chase mission and complete it, your loot quality actually increases. So you already know I'm heading to that mission terminal right now. And I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty bad at this mission at first, but don't worry, I'd get better as time goes on. But before I get better, something tragic happened. Yeah, so after the Gamma mission, Kipper fell through the map somehow. I don't know how I'm gonna get him back, but for now, let's try that mission again. Day 23 started with me doing some Gamma slide and glide mission on the Maywing. I completed a mission, but didn't do any more of it. Instead, doing the both beta and alpha circuit chase mission. Anyway, my loot quality is now maxed out for the rest of my 100 days, but I still have the problem of getting Kipper from under the map. I just decided to go into ghost mode to get him, and he was literally sitting right there, like 3 feet below the surface. I don't care what you say, I'm not letting Kipper die like that. And I spent the rest of the day drop hunting with my new supposedly boosted drop quality. But after spending the whole day getting the drops, I did not notice a difference whatsoever. Since my drop loot still sucks, I decided to move on to a new goal: getting a tech replicator. So day 24 started with me punching some crystal. And another resources you need for replicator is black pearls. And you can get the black pearls a few ways, by either killing stuff that drops them, the pearls being in the space cycle, or the dead carnivorous trees, but I didn't know that just yet. So I spent a little time killing the underwater scorpions for an actually insulting amount of pearls before learning them I could actually get them from the dead trees. And my chat also informed me that a chainsaw works best, so I returned to my base, crafted myself a chainsaw, and proceeded to get folded by a capro, carnivorous tree, and piranha. I sure do love art. But luckily, Kipper was alright, and I finally managed to kill the tree and get my black pearl. I didn't get any black pearls from it. I didn't even get anything from it. And to make things even worse, my game audio was glitching out. All I could hear was that stupid river and nothing else. I sorted out my audio on day 25 and finally found out that you get black pearls from the already dead trees. So I just fought and died with that tree for absolutely nothing. So anyways, after that, I took a little break to reorganize myself back in my base, and I went back out later just to realize that my method of killing these trees kinda sucks. The trees really only die to fire damage, and when I use a torch I have to get up close and personal, putting me right in the you're about to die zone. So I returned to my base towards the end of the day and placed a chemistry bench that I got from a drop to make propellant, which I turned into flame arrows. The video file for day 26 was lost to time itself, so enjoy this visual demonstration. I had gotten all the black pearls I needed by day 27, and the next resource I needed to farm was polymer. I didn't want to have to farm cementing paste and obsidian, so I decided to take the organic polymer route. So I grabbed my reaper and proceeded to massacre mantises inside Rockwell's innards. This might be the best way to farm organic polymer in the game. Anyway, I made my way back to my base, and I now had everything I needed to craft a tech replicator. So I got all my resources in my inventory, flew to a terminal just to realize I cannot fit all the resources inside the terminal. So yeah, it turns out I'm gonna have to farm all that hard polymer after all. So before I knew it, I was back in Rockwell's innards killing bugs, this time for chitin to turn into cementing paste. Day 28, I had all the chitin I needed, and I then farmed an absurd amount of stone in 3 seconds with my shredder and began crafting cementing paste. And after that, I spent pretty much the whole day farming obsidian by hand out in the space biome. Anyway, I had all that I needed to craft the hard polymer. It was just waiting for it to finish crafting because it takes forever. Day 29, and as I said, crafting hard polymer takes forever. And in that time, I dropped a deuce, got gas, went to the DMV, and became a grand master at chess. Anyway, I finally crafted the tech replicator in the terminal. And after placing the replicator, I demolished some of the railings on the side of my base because it's time to build an extension to house something very, very important. Day 30 consisted of farming, building, more farming, and finally more building. I'm building this extension with the same length and width of the bridge of the main platform, if that makes any sense. I did this so I can make other extensions on the other 4 sides and it'd all be even and look super cool. But it's now time to actually build what belongs on this extension of the platform. All hail Kipper. Yeah, I made a throne to Kipper. This is now where Kipper will remain for the rest of the playthrough, and now he'll be completely safe in my base. Anyway, I added some more railings to finish off the base extension. And after that, I tamed a male space dolphin so I could breed it to and spent the rest of the day farming element because it just happened to be in cycle. Day 32, I had a dino leash down in front of Kipper's throne to keep my space dolphins in place. For some reason, when you dismount the dolphins, they tend to wander off a little bit, and it really makes me mad, so keeping them in this area will lower my angle levels by a ton. Anyway, I bred the 2 dolphins, and while I was waiting for the baby to be born, a Sarco attacked my base from the water. It could somehow aggro on the space dolphins, but just ended up biting my wooden floors instead. I might have to install some underwater turrets if this keeps up. Anyway, the baby was born, but got bad stats, so I promptly put it down. And after that, I tried the Gamma Starwing Strike mission, which is actually really difficult to control, and I ended up killing a dolphin by accident. I seriously have no idea how to do this mission, so for now on, it'll be a problem for future me. And I then proceeded to fail the Gamma Hover Sail mission too. Yeah, today is not my day. Day 33, I did the beta and gamma downriver run, and I barely completed the beta one on time, so I have no idea how I'm going to be able to do the alpha one. And this mission is known for making people rage, so this might be me later. Moving on, while I was at my base, my beaver actually died to a Sarco. I guess it was on passive or something. So I took the initiative and made a trap to go tame a Theory to farm wood for me this time instead. And I literally found the level 162 first try, so I guess Ark is trying to make up for it. But after I built the trap and got the Theory in it, I forgot the trank darts. So I had to fly back to my base in a tech suit because when I cryo my dolphin, it drops the element in its inventory and I forget to pick it up pretty much every time. And that's how I burned through most of my element. Day 34, I got the trank darts, flew back, and knocked out the Theory. And I then spent the rest of the day waiting for the Theory to tame and feeding them narcotics because they also wake up very fast. The Theory tamed about 5 minutes into day 5 and I named him Woody, simply because I'm only going to use him to farm wood. Don't get any other ideas, you sick. Anyway, I proceeded to get a horrible blue drop on the way back to base before pulling out my wood. Throwing out Woody, my Theory. Anyway, after that, I returned to Rockwell's garden to farm some silica pearls in this weird cave right above the southern space entrance. And I then farmed some metal and obsidian in the space biome on the way home. I needed all these resources to craft the skiff. Since you can't cryopod tech striders, the skiff is really the only way to get them around the map to farm the resources you need to farm. That and besides teleporters, but I'm way too poor to set up multiple teleporters and generators right now. Moving on, I had to farm a bit more metal for the skiff, and I'm glad I'm getting around to making this thing now because farming a roof source by hands really sucks. And later on, I returned to my base, put the metal in the forge, and killed another Sarco that was attacking the bottom of my base. I'm seriously gonna have to put up some turrets once I get a tech generator. Moving on, sulfur was the resource in cycle today, which is a completely useless piece of information to you all. Anyway, what I was actually doing was farming fungal wood in Rockwell's garden. I needed this wood to make fish baskets because I want to tame a Shadowmane. If you don't know how taming a Shadowmane goes, let me teach you with this visual demonstration. You first have to get a fish inside of a basket while somehow dodging piranhas, capros, and other Shadowmanes. And this just just can't be any fish. The better the multiplier of the fish, the better taming effectiveness it does on the Shadowmane. So anyway, once you have the fish, you have to feed it to the Shadowmane while it's asleep. It's pretty simple as long as you don't mess any of these up. Day 37, I returned to my base but didn't craft up any fish baskets just yet. I instead crafted a skiff. And also metal and gems were in the space biome today, and I wanted to farm some of them with my new skiff. So I grabbed my strider with my skiff, flew out to the space biome, and farmed a few nodes of metal before I realized I didn't have it synced to a dedicated storage. You see, the whole thing that makes striders really good is that wherever you are on the map, if they're linked to a dedicated storage, the resource in their inventory will deposit to the dedicated storage back at base. So basically it's an infinite farming glitch, but it's just not a glitch. So I returned to my base and I crafted myself 3 dedicated storages and tried again. But since I'm not that smart, I forgot to actually link the strider to the metal storage and it didn't work. And it basically took me the rest of the day to figure out how to actually link it. I was trying to figure out why my strider wasn't farming crystal on day 38. And turns out when you link the strider to a resource, it's only gonna farm that resource node and nothing else. And since I had the strider linked to metal, it no worked for crystals. Anyway, after that, I fisted the crystal nodes. That came out wrong. Anyway, after I was done farming crystal, I returned to the space biome where metal and black pearls were now in cycle. And let's just say I farmed more than a fair share of metal and black pearls. I think it's finally time that I get myself some medical brews. I have an indie forge, tech replicator, and my armor is basically like wearing hide at all times, so some medical brews would really come in clutch. So anyway, I placed some pipes and then placed an indie cooker I got from a drop. And after that, I farmed an absurd amount of narco and tinto berries in seconds with my strider. And while my med brews were crafting, I also made some tech canteens finally. And after that, I finally made my Theory Woody a saddle. And I also bred my space dolphins again, but the baby was ass, so I killed it. And I then proceeded to whip my Theory through a forest while also decimating it at the same time because I need wood for a big project coming up soon. But that's for later, as I end the day flying around the map with my space dolphin looking for our gigas. I don't know if I can bring gigas into the missions, but if I can, I'm really gonna need them. Well, I didn't find any gigas, which is alright for now, I guess. But anyways, I decided to shift my focus to taming Shadowmanes, as they will be my primary source of power to take down Alpha Rockwell Prime. So after making a trap because I'm gonna cheese to tame, I found the level 174 L in Rockwell's garden. And after killing some local wildlife, I placed a trap, but I realized I probably want the fish baskets to be filled before I start the tame. So now enjoy this painful little montage of me taming my first ever Shadowmane. Shadowmane tamed towards the end of day 41, and I named him Chubby after my beastly cat IRL. And now, since this is my first Shadowmane literally ever, I have no idea how the controls worked or what those icons and bar meant at the bottom. So I spent the rest of the day attacking the local wildlife, leveling up my Shadowmane so I could really just see how it works. Day 42, I found a level 156 female Shadowmane. And since you need 2 Shadowmanes to breed to make a boss fighting army, I'm gonna have to go through all of that pain once again. But at least this time I somewhat know what I'm doing and I have some leftover fish. So anyway, I quickly constructed a trap just to realize that I won't be able to get this one in the trap as easily as last time. You see, my current method was to have the Shadowmane do that teleport attack on me while I was hovering above the air and they just fall into the trap. But this time around there were 2 Shadowmanes in its pack, so having 3 Shadowmanes constantly teleported to attack me won't end so well. But anyway, I remembered I have a skiff back in my base, so I could literally just pick it up and drop it into the trap. So I returned later with my skiff, picked up the Shadowmane, dropped it into the trap, and I could have saved myself a lot of pain earlier if I'd done that last time. But yeah, another problem arose. I was running out of fish to tame it, and somehow it managed to aggro on me and attack me through the walls. And to make it even better, it glitched and now wouldn't go back to sleep, and I have to find a new one to tame. But no worries, because I found another level 156 female I was taming in the morning of day 43. But as I was nearing the end of the tame, a random level 30 Shadowmane found me and attacked me, thus making the Shadowmane I was taming mad, and it didn't want to go back to sleep, so I couldn't tame it anymore. But hey, the original one I was taming was still nearby, so I put it back into the trap, and maybe I'll actually be able to tame it this time. Are you kidding me? Luckily, that did not make the 156 untamable again, and I finally made it mine. And yeah, if I did have to find another Shadowmane to tame, I probably would have put a hole in my monitor by now. But anyways, to end off day 43, I threw out my Shadowmanes back in my base and began breeding them. Day 44, my first Shadowmane babies were brought into this world because I got twins. They were both males and had the good stats, but I still did not have a perfect breeding pair. But I have to say, these guys are really ugly as babies. Just look at that big face. Anyway, after I imprinted the two, I stayed around base because I really want to mess around on them when they're fully grown. So in the meantime, I farmed some stone for my upcoming project. Actually, hold that thought on me staying around my base because I took my Reaper back to Rockwell's innards to farm polymer. I think it's finally time I get a tech generator so I can use more tech structures like tech troughs and turrets. I returned from the polymer farming session in the morning of day 45 and crafted a tech generator and 3 more tech dedicated storages. And after placing the tech generator and giving it some element to power my base, another baby Shadowmane was born, but it didn't have the good stats. But after that, the 2 Shadowmanes I raised earlier were now fully grown, and let's just say I had some fun with them. While I spent most of the day running around the mountains of Eden killing stuff, it's finally time to begin construction. I want to build a massive hexagonal platform like the one I have all my structures on now, but way bigger. And on this platform, I wanted to house my dinos, breeders, and my future Shadowmane army. So I ended off the day by farming a little bit with my tech strider and then beginning to craft ceilings. Day 50, and I'm not done with the platform just yet. As you can obviously see, there's a giant hole in it. But I just simply could not bring myself to build anymore right now, and I'm sure my editor is probably going crazy. But with me taking this little break, I decided to go over back to Rockwell's innards to check out what I actually need to do the final boss in this series. And it's pretty much only missions and some mutagen, which isn't horrible, except for the missions part. But anyway, I returned to my base and got another Shadowmane baby I didn't feel like raising right now, so I cryoed it for later. Instead, I decided to try the Gamma Survive the Arc mission, and to say it lightly, I was getting clapped and had to cancel the mission. I think the problem is that the tech suit only has 20 armor apiece, so I'm gonna need to get some better armor to start doing these missions. So with getting better gear being my main goal, I decided I wanted to do the Shadowmane Prowl mission to make my dinos more powerful for other missions. But as I said earlier in this video, the hunting missions are already pre-completed for some reason. So once you actually beat the mission, nothing happens, and you can't actually beat it, you just have to cancel it. So yeah, cue me doing the Gamma mission twice to make sure it just wasn't a glitch. But yeah, I got nothing, it was a complete waste of time. But I'm not discouraged from doing missions, so I'm gonna do the Gamma Star Dolphin mission, which is basically its own boss fight. Day 52, and I did all that for 1800 hexagons, some bad armor, and an absurd amount of grapples. I honestly have no idea how I'm gonna do the beta or alpha version, especially because I barely beat the gamma one. Anyway, since that mission was surprisingly stressful, I'm gonna calm down and complete my dino storage platform. I completely finished the platform by placing railings on day 55. And don't mind the pillars sticking out through the floor, I know it looks bad, but I don't care that much. Anyway, I crafted a tech trough, but I need another one to fully cover my base and a generator to power it. So I spent most of the day looking for crystal, but didn't find any. But I could literally just buy it, and that's what I did when I got back to base. Sometimes I forget that you can just buy stuff. Day 56, I took my strider and skiff out this time, but I still did not find any crystal. I searched basically all of Eden and Rockwell's garden, but found nothing until I remembered YouTube was a thing. So after hitting a few keys on my keyboard, I found probably the best place to farm crystal on the map, and it was just basically a giant cave with only crystal in it, and I farmed all of it. I logged in on day 57 and couldn't find my skiff anywhere. I logged out in the sky on the end of day 56, and I was looking everywhere. Oh, it's literally right there on the ground. Anyway, after that, I returned to my base and finally placed a tech trough so my dinos can eat. And I then went back to Rockwell's innards just because I love it so much. Nah, I was actually just farming polymer because I need it for literally everything tech. And after farming all the polymer I need and getting chased out by a few summoners, I returned back to my base and crafted another tech generator to power the other part of my base. Taking a short break from farming and base work in general, I still have a bunch of missions I need to do. And I decided to knock out 2 of them, both being the Gamma and Beta Team Downriver Run. I'm pretty sure it's exactly the same as Downriver Run, except there can be other canoes if there are other people doing the mission. But since I record all my videos in single player because I don't have any friends, it was just me. But yeah, it was basically the same as last time. It was surprisingly stressful, I almost didn't finish it, and I hated it. Day 59, I had just gotten home from my first day of school, and it was time to grind out some arc, including missions. So I started the Gamma Choose Your Own Adventure mission, but I had no idea what was going on. There were a bunch of weird looking dinos attacking me, I had to use my own weapons, the mission didn't actually give me any, and I had no idea what what the actual goal was. So I had to cancel the mission, and then I logged off and took a nap because I was tired. And all of that occurred in about a span of 5 minutes. Eventually, when I logged back on later, I flew around the ocean biome for some reason, looting a few drops before I got a really good wreck saddle blueprint, which I'll actually never use. But getting the saddle blueprint reminded me that I want an R Giga for missions, and just because they're super cool. So I crafted up a classic Giga taming trap, but I realized I'm probably not going to want to knock out something with over 100k torpor with only normal trank darts. I still have some shocking trank darts from the start of the video, but I'm gonna need way more. So I returned back to the ocean, killed some jellyfish for their biotoxin, and returned back to my base to begin crafting shocking trank darts. And ensued 20 minutes of me looking on day 60 until I found a level 156. And the rest of the tame went just about how you'd expect. Placed a trap, trapped the Giga, and began putting all of my shocking trank darts into it. It was only on day 61 when I had this realization.
I don't have narcotics to keep it asleep.
Yeah, so I could get the Giga to go to sleep, but the problem is it would wake up way before I could finish taming it. So I flew back to my base, farmed a bunch of narcotics, and then turned them into over 1,000 narcotics as fast as I could. And once those were done, I killed an ovis and harvested its mutton before heading back over to the Giga to actually tame it this time. And the Giga actually didn't lose too much torpor while I was gone because it wasn't in render. Single player can really come in clutch sometimes. Anyway, I finally got the Giga to go to sleep and spent the rest of the day making sure it would stay asleep and I could tame it. Day 62 and my new killing machine was tamed, and I named him Death. Not much more else to say, I mean, look at him. But once I returned to my base, I brutally slaughtered another Shadowmane baby because it didn't have the good stats. Not my fault it didn't have the good stats, I'm just doing my duty. Moving on, I took my Giga, who now had a saddle, to Rockwell's innards to do some bonding. And by bonding, I mean killing literally everything and harvesting polymer at the same time. And as I was walking out, I was getting chased by a Reaper King that I really didn't want to fight because they don't die that easily when you don't have a light pet with you. But the problem is, I crashed on the way out. So when I logged back in, I thought I would be inside of a Reaper's stomach, but luckily I was right next to my Giga and I managed to safely get out. That was a lot of unneeded stress. I started day 63 in that one little cave in Rockwell's garden that had some silica pearls in. I needed the pearls to craft electronics to finally craft those turrets I was talking about earlier. So when I returned to my base, I crafted 3 tech turrets and placed them in the water surrounding my base. And after only 5 minutes, they were proving their worth very quickly. So after seeing that onslaught, I kept out all 3 of the turrets with shards, so they would now be keeping my lake water safe from now on. Anyway, after that, I tried the Alpha Downriver Run mission, which I said earlier is notorious for being near impossible, and I failed horribly. So for now, I'm making propellant because I got an insane flamethrower from a drop earlier and I want to use it soon. But to make flamethrower ammo, you need a combination of propellant and gas, and I have no oil to make the gas. And I really didn't want to spend the last few of my hexagons on oil, so I ventured back to the ocean and managed to farm a few oil nodes before I got chased out of there by a mosasaur. But I then returned a few minutes later with a Shadowmane because these dudes can swim pretty fast. But they're still not that great when you're getting swarmed by literally the entire ocean, so I only farmed a few more nodes before leaving, but it should be enough for now. But I actually instead spent the rest of the day breeding my Shadowmanes because I still don't have a good female after all this time, and it's really making me mad. Day 65 and I finally had my flamethrower ammo, and my first victim was this random Dino right outside of my base area. The poor dude got his face melted off before he even knew what was happening. But sadly, the rest of the day wasn't nearly as cool. I just spent it raising 2 more Shadowmanes and a baby space dolphin as I finally got one with decent stats. Day 66, my babies were done raising, and I had a new goal in mind. I wanted to tame some Rexes so I can simply kill their babies and power level my Shadowmanes for the boss fight. And it didn't take too long for me to find a max level male Rex, which I obviously knocked out. I was still gonna tame high level Rexes so my Shadowmanes could get more experience. But the problem is it's kinda hard to find more high levels, especially because I needed multiple high level females now. And yeah, the male Rex tamed, but I didn't see any other high level females worth taming for the rest of the day. I was still looking on day 67, and I even took a stop in the Rockwell's innards to reread what the boss requirements were. Unlike the Genesis simulation, you need to complete all missions on whatever difficulty you want to do the boss fight on, not a certain number of missions done. But as day 67 dragged on, my standards lower and I ended up knocking out a level 114 female. I spent a little more time on day 68 looking for more female Rexes to tame, but I didn't find any worth my time. And after that, I spent some time back at the Silica Pro Cave farming more pearls. I wanted more of these shiny pearls to make into air conditioners. I'm gonna need a space to actually hatch the Rex eggs so I can kill them with my Shadowmanes to get levels. And towards the end of the day, I began crafting more wooden triangle ceilings because I found I can actually put layers of ceilings below my floor that isn't touching the water where the air conditioners will sit. And I continued crafting the ceilings on day 69, then moving to placing them. And after that, I crafted a buttload of air conditioners and then placed them as well. But moving on, I still want to tame a few more female Rexes because only one breeding pair is not going to pump out near enough eggs. So I spent the rest of the day looking around on my skiff, and I found a level 156 which I knocked out and tamed in Rockwell's garden. Day 70, the Rex tamed, but I didn't return to base just just yet because I wanted to tame yet another. And after not too long, my wish was granted and I found another level 156. Day 71, I had my new Rexes breeding slowly to begin producing me fertilized Rex eggs over time. After that, I wanted to tame a Lystro just to give my Shadowmane a 2x experience buff while I was killing baby Rexes. But the problem was I was looking for one on my skiff, and Lystros are smaller than a pair of balls, so it took me like 15 minutes to actually spot one. But after getting my little experience buffing Lystro back to my base, I gave the Gamma Slipstream Sweep another try. And I don't know why I had so much trouble with this one earlier. I completed it so fast, I even completed the beta one by the end of the day. But day 72, 73, and 74 were not nearly that great. I spent all 3 days breeding my Shadowmanes because I finally got a good female with the good stats. So I now have around 17 Shadowmanes, which I think should be enough for the beta boss. And you heard that right, I'm only gonna do the beta boss fight because I definitely can't do alpha for a while and there just simply isn't enough content for me to do 200 days. But more specifically, you'll see why I can't do alpha in the next few days. I was back out looking for another female Rex on day 75 simply to speed up egg production. And after actually pretty long time of looking, I knocked out a level 114 Rex because it was the best I could actually find, and that's basically what I did for the entire day. Day 76, I had to do the Starwing Strike mission, and there's no way to say this lightly. This mission makes me want to permanently delete my channel, road trip to the wildcard headquarters, and fight whoever made this mission. The way you control the dolphin is super weird, and it's oddly hard to get the depth perception, so you hit literally everything. And there are these weird doors that I don't know how to open, so I just fly into them and take damage. So by the time I'm about to finish the mission, I die to a random laser because I have no health because I took so much damage hitting all the doors. And I did this mission multiple times over for the whole day. I managed to beat them both somehow, but you guys have no idea how close I came to committing a crime. Day 77, and I lied. Turns out I need to breed 2 more Shadowmanes. So yeah, the whole day was spent doing that. Sorry. Day 78, I got Polymer. I don't know why. I didn't even use it for anything, and that's literally what I did the whole day. But day 79 is why I said earlier that I can't do the alpha boss fight. I'm gonna try and do the Gamma Survive the Arc mission. And I even brought 3 sets of flak because the Gen 2 armor is trash, so I'm more prepared than last time. But I was still getting dogged on. I was even slamming med brews, but my armor was getting shredded, so I knew it wouldn't last that long, so I just canceled the mission. I'm going back with 10 sets of flak. There were 10 rounds, so if I go through more than a round of flak per round, this is literally impossible. I literally died on the second round. What the hell? Day 80, I actually figured out how to do the mission. When you kill the dinos that attack you, you can get gauntlet credits that can be used to buy better weapons and other dinos to help you actually beat the mission. And I had a lot of success with Shadowmanes and the cluster grenade launcher, so I highly recommend that combo. And later on in the day, I tried beta, but I simply did not have the skills necessary to even make it past the first round. And I attempted it twice on day 81, but to no avail. I even failed the first round twice. And keep in mind, guys, these missions are supposed to be done with 5 people, and there's only 1 of me, so I might come back to it later. But as of now, I'm only gonna do Gamma, which really sucks, but I'm still trying to be a multiplayer map as a solo. But after that, I did the beta slide and glide mission just in case I still wanted to do beta, but I don't think I will. Anyway, after that, I started doing the Gamma choose your own adventure mission to get a feel for it, and I was actually doing pretty good at it. But for some reason, I canceled it on day 82 because I thought it was too easy, but I would later go on to deeply regret this decision. So anyway, I started the beta version, but I quickly canceled it because I forgot I needed more armor. And I then started it up again and made it to phase 2, but I quickly realized that I needed a tech sword to get up to different levels, so I had to cancel the mission for a second time and go back to Rockwell's innards to farm polymer with my Giga to actually craft the sword. Day 83, and I realized my Giga was probably going to get boxed by Reaper King, so I made a quick trip back to my base, grabbed my Reaper, and then farmed polymer with it. And after that, I returned to my base and crafted a sword along with preparing some of my gear. There should be no way I failed this time, so I restarted the mission and was actually doing pretty decent. That is until I got to the second stage and went through the wrong portal, so I got reset and then rage quit. I finally switched back to the Gamma version of the mission on day 84. Since I'll probably only be doing the Gamma boss fight, it just makes sense. But it basically took the whole day, but I did make it to the final boss with the summoner and macro summoners. After completing the mission on day 85, I returned to my base and then spent the whole day leveling my Shadowmanes with my fertilized Rex eggs. I didn't get all of them leveled, but I needed to take a break after that mission. I didn't put too much of it into the video because it's boring and I was raging the whole time. That mission was making me go insane. And I also did the same thing on day 86 since this process does take a while. Day 87, I did the Gamma life support mission. It was pretty easy, you just have to kill some stuff and match the pillars to the sequence on the wall, but it's pretty cool because at the final boss, it was a mech riding a strider. The art devs actually got pretty creative on this one, and I'm all here for it. Just, I don't think these missions should take nearly 30 minutes every time. And speaking of long missions, I still have Code Red to do. This one is really weird, and you have to make your way through a bunch of tunnels and activate different terminals. And I canceled it the first time around because I forgot to bring extra armor again, and I actually failed the second time around really really close to the end because I wasn't watching the time remaining I had left. But I finally did it on day 89. It took the whole day, but I learned from my mistakes and managed to beat it. And I also brought a tech phase pistol with me this time, and I melted through the experiment giga. Days 90 and 91 I spent healing my Shadowmane since they were all recently leveled and needed more health. But day 92 I had the gamma missions all done, so I can now do the boss. So I made some more med brews, got some gear, and I was pretty much ready. The problem was I had to wait for all my Shadowmanes to wake up in the terminal. And I didn't know this, but Shadowmanes take forever to wake up from cryo sickness. So I just farmed a little bit of mutagen while I passed the time. Day 93 didn't matter because I was still waiting for my Shadowmanes to wake up. But day 94, and it was finally time for me to face the big man himself for a third time. Anyway, I started the gamma boss fight. I know it's not the boss fight I promised, but since I started way back on the island, I'd say I've done pretty good for myself in the past year. Now let's just hope I don't end this series with a loss.
I will not allow you to spoil my ascension, my godhood.
Generations put all their hopes and dreams into this mission. You don't belong here, and we won't allow you to steal their future.
I am their future, damn you! Enough! This ends now! And your survival ends here!
Is that desperation I hear? Alright, I'm using all my reserves. The exomech is back online one last time. Get in, blast the bugger, and let's end this survivor. Should have calculated for this possibility. Mr. Transforming the 15th statistical outcome matrix. Simply put, Rockwell's embedded himself too deeply into the ship's primary systems. They're failing along with him. There's only one way to ensure this all ends here. Sorry, mate. I can't come with. I always have time to back myself up. You'll do just fine on your own out there. You're a survivor. I'm here to help you end this nightmare.
You did this to me for wanting the same power she squandered. Well, I've survived worse. I promise you, I will find a way out of this, I will.
No, you won't. It's much too late for that.
It's so bright. Helena. I'm afraid.
She knew. survivor. This is my last message to you, to be relayed in the event of my deactivation. I was only an artificial construct when we first met. Just a shadow of someone who lived a long time ago. But in our time together, I got to become something new. Someone new. Not Helena. HLNA. Thank you for that. I wish I could find the words to tell you how much it meant to me. Human language is so imprecise. But I need you to do something else now. Find your own path. Your own destiny. Build a new world here. A better world. And who knows? Maybe two lost souls can still meet again somewhere. Out among the stars. Goodbye, my friend. Warning. Catastrophic viral vulnerability. Fail. All required highlight files required immediate relocation.
Respawned again.
Insertion maneuver successful. Stable and warning. Emergency evacuation in progress. Docking clamps released.